Arsenal are through to the fourth round of the Energy Drink Cup, beating a top Premier League side with our B team, including a youth player making his first team debut and a player who hadn't started a game in 499 days. We've earned ourselves a mouth-watering tie at West Ham, and you have to say a good chance of progressing to the quarterfinals of a cup we've only ever won twice. You'd be forgiven for thinking our fans would be happy. It may only have been a 1-0 to the Arsenal, but since when was that not good enough? That's our scoreline. Still, it seems that the response has been less than enthusiastic. We should have played better, we should have scored more, we were too defensive and didn't take this competition seriously enough. We got away with it rather than coming away with it. All of this is a little bewildering to me and serves to highlight what an impossible job Mikel has taken on. You can please some of the people some of the time, but only ever half of the Arsenal fan base. We have incredibly high demands. Let's take the issue of squad selection. Before the lineups were announced, there was a debate raging between those that thought we should play our strongest team and those that saw this as a chance to give players lacking minutes a chance to stake a claim in an already injury-ravaged first team. I find all of this infuriating. I did last season when it was a Europa League and I was being criticised for thinking we should not be playing our first team against Sporting Lisbon. I was arrogant for not taking it seriously. I was warned that if we went out and didn't win the league, it would come back to haunt us. My reasoning was that we didn't have a strong enough squad and that we risked losing players to injury who might be integral to our title challenge. I always feel like the hunter who chases 2 rabbits catches neither. Now, before you tell me the City caught 3 rabbits, winning the treble, a fact I'm only too aware of, by the way, thanks, I think it's worth pointing out that City had the personnel to rotate through the competitions. Pep has assembled a better squad than ours, we all know that, right? In the end, thanks to a wonder goal and a lottery of a penalty shootout, we went out, but also lost our first choice centre-back and our second choice right-back too. Now, whether you think that was a huge reason for our end-of-season collapse or not, surely you concede it played a part. So, for the Carabao Cup, and by the way, not only have I never tasted this beverage, I'm not even sure I've ever seen it in the shops. I was delighted by Mikel's selections. I was expecting him to play a youngster or two. My suspicion was that we would see Miles Lewis-Skelly since it was his birthday the day before, and he is someone I really expect to make it from what I've seen of him. Turns out though that he hadn't wished hard enough when blowing out his candles. Reflecting on it, I think it's a good thing that Mikel doesn't just hand out first team debuts as birthday gifts. He's clearly not as much of a mushy sentimentalist as I am. In came Charles Sego Jr. Now, is he our first ever player with Junior in the name? Let me know in the comments. I can't think of one. Honestly, I know very little about him, but by all accounts he's been consistent over the last couple of months and has impressed whilst training with the first team. Our academy seems to be in rude health right now, and this competition, along with the Europa League when we were in it, has traditionally been where we got our first look at youngsters. James Sweet, Will Walters and Mario Kosciuszko all made the bench even though they didn't get minutes. Emile Smith-Rowe got his first start in about 16 months. After all that Arteta has said about how much he loves him, I was starting to suspect he might be just saying it. Only Cedric and Gunnersaurus have had less game time, and one of them spent last season at Fulham. Reece Nelson started, and the more I see him play, the more he reminds me of Michael Thomas. They both have that unnatural calmness, a rare quality that made such a difference in '89. It's up for grabs might have been a forgotten accompaniment to a near miss had Thomas not taken his sweet time in waiting for Grobler to commit himself. Wouldn't it be wonderful if Nelson's Arsenal career had a similar moment? Jorginho was given the captain's armband despite his calamitous cameo in the North London derby just days before. Mikel did keep Eddie up front even though he took a pasting of fans and pundits alike for his missing in action in the same game. I was among his harshest critics. I don't take any of it back either. You just can't wander around against Spurs. The least we expect is that you give 100%. Kai Havertz had another chance to impress. Now, it would be an understatement to say that the fans have not really warmed to him. He's had the kind of welcome normally reserved for bailiffs or Jehovah's Witnesses. He's been underwhelming, but I'm still hopeful that he just needs time to adjust to a new team, new system and new surroundings. Some of you will be quick to point out that it doesn't work when we sign players from Chelsea, and I'm not about to argue that it does. Although I did like David Luiz and Peter Cech, but I wouldn't go so far as to say I missed them. I'm worried that Havertz may be the next Willian. Although since he was free, Kai could still be so much worse. I'm happy to trust the process, trust Mikel, trust the board. I give them credit for not putting a foot wrong in the past 4 windows. Go on, try and think of a dud. Tavares, Lokonga, we'll probably make money out of both, so that's good business. Anyway, I think we're all tired of trying to defend Kai. He's in the squad, we paid a fair whack for him, so Arteta must rate him, and that'll do for me. If there's one thing I'm damn sure about, it's that I know less than Mikel and Edu. Maybe you do, in which case it's a disgrace you weren't considered for the job. Write a strongly worded letter to someone. Yeah, I just realised how old that makes me sound. Anyone watching this under 30 is probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. Upload a shouty ranty TikTok. There aren't enough of those around, are there? Mikel took a gamble with the side he sent out, not showing the competition enough respect. Arrogant again. In fairness, he'd have needed to make substantial changes anyway with our injuries. We have 7 players unavailable, and that's a quarter of our squad near enough. If the fact that this gamble paid off should have been acknowledged, instead he was criticised for not playing better. It wasn't an exciting performance. I found the second half tough to watch, and I was pretty much just keen to see it end as soon as it had started. It's fair to say that had Wissa scored from one of his 5 shots, we would be lucky to still be in this tournament. A week may be a long time in politics, it's an age in football. Last Wednesday when we were the best team in the world because we beat PSV, and a week later no one's happy even though we beat a side from the top half of the Premier League with our B team. So many fans online saying we're not good enough. This is how fans are these days. We want it all and we want it right now or sooner. No patience. Don't want to hear about a process. We're Arsenal Football Club and we should be winning every game in style like we never have at any time in our history. No one ever has. The greatest teams in the world grind out results. It's a mark of champions that they get the points or progress to the next round even when they haven't played well. Now I realise this doesn't really reflect all fans, most likely not even the majority. It's just the more vocal supporters on social media. I'm reminded of the adage, it's the empty vessel that makes the most noise. I think the sensible, clear thinking and rational among us need to speak up. We may wish to have had the kind of all-conquering team that wins every game handsomely, but I'm not sure they exist. City are the closest we've seen to that, but they've lost away to Newcastle playing close to a first team. The quadruple is already off the table. Or for them anyway. We're happy to accept that winning trophies is about the most difficult thing to do in football. Remember, only 2 English clubs managed it last season. To make it more difficult by demanding that winning isn't enough, that we have to win with style, is to invite regular disappointment. The away trip to West Ham is a game I'm really excited about, and if we play as well as we can, we will be through to the quarterfinals of the League Cup, and we can all forget about the competent, professional and efficient performance that got us there. I'm not advocating win at all costs. I'd hate to see us park buses or go back to the Arsenal of my youth, which was all about grinding out 1-0s. I do think that criticism needs to be considered in the context of what it is fair to expect from a squad that isn't finished yet. From players who are still learning to be champions, let's not forget that Arteta still has not had 5 years as a top-level manager. Ferguson needed 7 to win his first title at Manchester United, and it was a win in the League Cup the season before that gave his side the confidence and quieted the fans, some of whom had decided after 3 years that he was the wrong man for the job. It was winning the FA Cup in his 4th year that saved him. Fortunately, Edwards didn't bow to fan pressure to sack Fergie. I hope that Kroenkes are just as resolute. It's starting to feel like they may be tested if Arteta doesn't achieve something this year. The vocal and demanding section of our fan base that never doubt themselves and are always seeking radical change because nothing is ever good enough. It's just a suggestion, but perhaps supporting a different team may be an option if 1-0 to the Arsenal isn't enough for you. Instead of trying to change us to meet your wild idea of what success is, to make us what we've never been, perhaps you could just swap allegiances to a club more suited to you. I am, of course, talking about Chelsea. They seem to be able to absorb a huge number of deluded glory-hunting fans who everybody hates, and I can't see a few more causing an issue. Anyway, I'll still be cheering on the Arsenal, not because of the silverware, but because that's my team. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners!